Today on the CIO Lifeline, we have Rick McCutcheon from Partner-Talks, and we're going to dive into the importance of partner relationships. That can involve Microsoft, that can involve your ERP partner, your CRM partner, or some other ISV. But we're going to cover the dynamics that go into that and why you should care. Rick, thanks for joining us this morning. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Tony.
So, Rick, you have well over 200 episodes. You've been your channel, your podcast is at least 5 years in the running.
Yeah, so we started around 2019 with Partner-Talks. I've been an MVP in the Microsoft space. I'm a CRM guy since about 2012, but 25 years CRM experience. So I've been around this Dynamics world since they sort of created this Dynamics CRM product. So I'm going to say around 2004. So that makes it around 20 years.
So you were around when the connector never worked with CRM to the other products, right?
I was around for many years while those connectors.
Next version, Rick. Next version.
That really brought in part of this conversation today because it created a group of ISVs that could actually get their connectors to work. So we lived on those like Kingsway Soft for many, many years, and people still use Kingsway Soft today.
That's right. I think of E1, right? That's another
one.
Vendor in that connector space. These partners have found a niche in the Microsoft ecosystem, but then it feels like, maybe I'm the cynic, call me out on this, that as Microsoft continues to enhance their product line, they start to embed the very things that have made partners flush with accounts. So it seems to be cannibalizing the very folks that Microsoft likes to work with. What's your sense of that over the years?
Oh, we see it all the time, right? So I do a lot of work with the ISV community. So Partner-Talks is my, main social platform, but my real business is working with ISV partners and some SI partners on building out their practices. So I'm always looking a lot at ISV technology and what people are building, and I always like it when someone builds a vertical solution. Right. So my building something, I was looking at one yesterday for marine. I was looking for another one for mining. I was looking at another one for, the wine and beverage industry. So if you're building an ISV, Microsoft's never going to touch you. If you're building against their technology, whether it's a synchronization tool, an advanced mobility products such as Rescos, or subscription management like Binary Stream has created, right? So you run into different people that we specialize in technology. We do a little bit better job than what's out of the box. So we survive on the edge for a long time because are they going to, focus tomorrow on subscription management, advanced mobility, or, something like AP automation? Then they're coming for me. But I find the ISV partners have much more experience and they tend to keep their products sort of leading edge. And, it's a combination of working with Microsoft and what's out of the box and with our ISV community.
Rick, just to help some of our listeners that might not be familiar with ISV, can you sort of explain the entire concept in the Microsoft ecosystem?
Absolutely. So, what's nice about what Microsoft built is, they usually build something like their Dataverse. I want to call it a product, but their Dataverse technology, which allows you to build onto Power Apps and most of the Dynamics products. And I know you gentlemen work a lot with Nav and Business Central, so there's a development language there as well. So if I'm an ISV and I see an opportunity to build an add-on product for Microsoft, Microsoft has open arms. Like we've got this app source online store where we can go and put our products to sell as add-on products. So Microsoft really sort of supports this ISV community. So it's independent software vendors who are building an add-on application that's embedded in the Microsoft technology.
Well, let's just start with a simple question. Why should customers even care if two partners behind the scenes are not gelling quite right? it feels a little bit rhetorical, but let's talk about why, departments and businesses really should pay attention to this relationship.
Well, I think it's important because they want to get their solution up and running on time and on budget. So I think everybody's got to work together. And you're going to, um, if I need an ISV solution, I really want to work with a partner that understands that solution. Those are companies that really specialize in certain areas that partners don't work with all the time. So, if I'm bringing in an ISV that's not familiar with the partner I'm working with, we may have to have a discussion to say, hey, we want this ISV to help us and supply services, or we may have to bring in another partner.
Who makes that call? What's the role that helps cast a light on that? Because there's a lot of businesses who look to their partner for everything and put a lot of trust and faith that they are going to bring the pawns together, so to speak.
Well, we're seeing that start to change a little bit, right? Because I do a lot of work with partners understanding what the technology buying process is today. And what it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago is very, very different. We were very reliant on our partners to tell us what's out there, how do we work with it, who should we talk to. Well,
Right.
now, Mr. Google, Mr. Bing, I can pretty much find whatever I need pretty quick. And, I've got these charts I use when I train ISVs and partners that really say, okay, what's the buyer journey? Well, that buyer journey is, I'm going to go online and look up AP automation for Dynamics 365 F&O or finance, whatever we're going to call it today. So we're going to look for that, which is probably going to end me up on MS Dynamics World, looking at some kind of videos. It's going to then move me over to, look at App Source. I can go in App Source and start to sort through this. I can go on G2 and start to read reviews for all these products. So we're seeing now the customer probably coming up with a short list of 5 people to say, okay, or 5 organizations that I think can fill this AP automation void. And then they're going to go to the partner and say, we think these are the best of breed for our industry. We've talked to other companies in our industry and they use these. What do you think? Our audience for Dynamics, people are looking this as a long-term investment and they're becoming a much more sophisticated buyer, which puts a lot more pressure on a partner to stay current and stay sticky, as I say, right? How do I stick to this client and make sure that everything's running properly?
Just recently, we ran into a client of ours that, has a fair number of modifications versus where we might have liked to have seen an ISV solution. How does a customer determine, when should I extend my product or modify my product, and when should I use an ISV solution?
Uh, that's a tough one. We see with Power Apps today a lot of partners trying to build everything themselves. And yes, they can build some of the functionality, but we've all been down the road for, custom applications, right? Uh, who developed it? What was their experience developing? Are they doing sort of the best job of optimizing things like user interface, speed, memory? Who's going to support this thing after that programmer is long gone and working on a different continent, right? So there's a bunch of things that we've got to consider here as we build out because our ISV community is very strong. And I work with ISVs every day that have between 200 and 2,000 customers on your product. So they're staying up to date with the Microsoft updates, what's going on. And, they've got a team to support this if something, is not working properly. I'd like to say, okay, I use the core Microsoft stuff and then I start to attach the strategic ISVs to it.
Everything, especially in today's cloud world, I would say more than ever, if an ISV. See, I'm not at the bookends of this. Do I feel that every single thing you should do to extend is through an ISV? No. Should you customize everything yourself? No. So finding what that sweet spot middle is always a challenge. But in today's cloud environment, and that's where every single software solution is going, nothing's going to stop that.
Well, something happened last week that are going to make people think about that statement a little more.
Fair point. Yes.
Philadelphia at this moment, due to the ripple effects. Like I'm supposed to be on an airplane.
Tom has had like 4 flight cancellations, and I'm waiting to read them on the front cover of the Times.
Well, hey, Rick, one question for that I get quite a bit is the future cost of ownership of, these solutions. A lot of people are starting to think of how much it's going to cost to maintain this thing going forward, not to mention the risk and the original developers. Are you having any discussions around that?
Every day.
Okay.
Right? Like you got to really think about support and downtime. When it's not working, what happens? I ran into this for years where programmers wanted to build their own synchronization, right? And I would say, no, you're going to use Kingsway Soft. Oh, I don't need to use Kingsway Soft. Yes, you do, because I don't know where you're going to be 6 months from now, right? Because they move around a lot. And if that goes down, that client's looking at you saying, when is it going to be up? Well, if Frank, who did it, is gone and he's not responding to me, my answer is, I really don't know, right? So I think there's a total cost of ownership if things go well, and a total cost of ownership if things don't go well. So I think there's always a risk when we're dealing with programmers and anything we do custom.
Because we're becoming a cloud subscription based, that business model is here to stay. That means that you're beholden to when they want to update. Microsoft has, in the Business Central space, 2 major updates a year. That doesn't matter if you want them or not, you're getting them. And how that will impact your extension or customization that you've made is a very real thing you have to consider, and multiply that out with your ISVs. You just want to make sure you're making the right decisions.
And this is, again, why we're seeing companies like the TestSmart and LeapWork and a few other ones coming into the automated testing world, right? Because you don't have control over these tests anymore. So you need an automated tool to test everything as it's happening. So you're right. It's just changing. It's just changing the way we look at computing and how we work with it.
There's a lot of new Microsoft partners in the last few years. If we think of some of the more vertical ISVs, right? You mentioned AP Automation, Continia, or one of those others. How do they decide whose AP automation they're going to use? Do I use the Kofax embedded stuff in Business Central? Should I use Continia? Should I use, fill in the blank, right?
I think you really want to talk to their customers. I'm seeing, the stuff I do with MS Dynamics World, all the thought leadership and case studies. We're seeing that the case studies, live case studies we do with a customer or a partner that talk about a project are being, well viewed. People want to talk to somebody who uses it, not just, I can demo it, I can test it, it seems to run now, but what happens under these other situations? So I think, they really want to look at reviews, they want to talk to customers, they want to see case studies and try to find somebody who's going to be using the application.
So I got a question. Since you're a CRM guy, do you, with 63% failure rates, what's some tips or tricks that you have for getting people to adopt CRM?
So failure rate in 1998 was the product doesn't work. What's going on? Machines all blew up. Okay. Failure rate today is the reps don't like using it, or I can't get this report, or it wasn't customized properly and we're still using Excel spreadsheets for a lot of our reporting. So failure is far different today. We go on an ERP project, we have a lot of fixed processes we're using today that we're probably moving off of one ERP system into a new ERP system. And we're trying to optimize those processes, and we're adding technology to those processes, but we kind of know what those processes are. It's when we get into Salesforce automation, right? What voodoo do these salespeople do, right? My best salespeople tend to be the best golfers, okay? In some industries, that's true, right? Or, I've got an ex-hockey player who sells beer today and he outsells everybody. In fact, I worked on a project where they were selling energy contracts in Eastern Canada, and they took a guy who was a Hall of Fame hockey player who was retired, and he was the rep. He didn't need any CRM. He just walked in, and everybody was buying him drinks, right? So it's different in sales. What works, how we work it. So we're getting more process automation within sales organizations. And we've got to change a lot of sales organizations to reflect that because they're not used to working that way. Also, we've always had user adoption problems because a lot of sales teams were not that computer literate. Those people are kind of retiring out of the scene. And pretty much everybody we're dealing with now is very computer literate. So I think we'll see that change.
Great insights there. And it resonates with what you're saying. A large part of what you were talking about focuses on relationships, like you mentioned the ex-hockey player. I've always taken a similar approach over my career. I just expect technical competency. I have to like the people I'm working with because we're going to be in it for a while. We're going to be work wives and husbands, and if I just simply don't relate to you, or there's not a good culture fit or chemistry fit.
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow?
Yo! I'm going to the next provider. I focus more on the relationship side because I think that's what bears the most fruit. Technical baseline is going to be there.
So, Rick, if I flip the question back around, from how does a partner pick an ISV? Does an ISV let every partner sign up, or how do ISVs establish who's going to be the right partner relationship?
So I think the ISVs are really looking for partners that are going to be more than one-off partners. I think, someone who's going to implement their product once and never again is good, and they'll go through that process, but they're really looking with someone who's going to go to market with them. And I was talking to actually a very significant SI partner the other day, and he described it as, I got ISV partners I want to go to market with, right? I got ISV partners with that I'll bring in when I need you. And I got ISV partners I got to live with because I got no other choice. So I think you want to find partners that look at you as that high value supplier.
And when you say high volume, how many transactions a year do you suppose that looks like?
Oh, for some, it's 5. For some, it's, I'm working with MSCRM add-ons, and they sell this extraction tool for, pulling the excess data that's clogging up your Dataverse, right, and causing you memory. Like, they could sell it to everybody. So it's more of a utility product.
I like the another point you brought up about, and that is talking to the customers of partners and VARs and ISVs. I think it does speak to the type of service they're going to provide, what they're like to work with. Keep going back to that relationship side. I think we all agree on its importance. Also, I think you mentioned a system integrator. I'm starting to see how this becomes even more important as you go, because if the partner is the one who brought in these two ISVs and the two ISVs are pointing at each other, who's herding the cats? There's a lot that goes into making sure you have the best possible chance for success.
And this is, we go back to this. I got ISVs I go to market with. I got ISVs I use when I can. I got people I got to, live with. So I think those ISVs are going to be people I got to live with, and I got no other choice. But if there's a choice and they're going to tell the next customer, listen, we had a bad example of what happened the last time. We used these products together because of this, this, and this. I suggest we use these two ISVs in the future just because it's going to run smoother. And we're seeing more and more of that, and that whole P2P relationship and what's important. And I think if we look in our Microsoft Dynamics space, we've got partners that have been working with ISVs for 20 years plus, maybe longer, right? Because they know they can trust them and they react.
And the reference trap that happens, you ask them for a reference, who you think you're going to get? The companies that went south, the ones that are not going to be verbose enough to sell their value, right? And so how do you get the ones that didn't go so well? I always ask the partners, I'd like some references. I'm not looking for the shitstorms and, and your glory for people. I need to talk to, I need a nice mix. But how do you find and where do you go to get a good representation of references? Again, maybe I'm being cynical, but I feel like when I ask for references from a partner, of course I'm going to get the best of the best.
Yeah, I agree. But we can look at reviews, and those review sites are pretty detailed now. If you can't bring me 3 or 4 customers that say how good you are, then that's a problem. As well, like I've got a lot of experience delivering projects. I got to tell you that it's not always the ISV's fault or the SI partner's fault. A lot of time, the customer understaffs these projects, or the data's so bad that you can't get anything done. So, it's hard. You're going to have customers that aren't happy, but why aren't they happy? Because sometimes they're not happy and they don't recognize that, they need to look in the mirror at the problem.
Well, one of the things,
Pearls of wisdom.
well, one of the things that we learned over the years, so I worked for partners for a lot of years, right? And we figured out we really need to categorize for our customers. How do we engage, right? So at Innovia, we called it core, promoted, and ad hoc, right? If it's core, you should probably expect we're going to do first line support. We do a fair number of these, half a dozen or more a year. If it's promoted, hey, we've had a few projects together. It's either really complicated, so we always let them lead, or we just don't work with it that often. We're not experts. And then the ad hoc, it's like, look, we'll help you with whatever you want. If you went out fishing on AppSource and you found a product, and there's good ones out there, but we don't know it. You just need to expect we've got to rely on that ISV a little bit more. And I think setting that customer expectation really, it helped a lot, because customers are like, hey, like Tony said, you guys recommended it. I expect you to know this stuff.
They're important, and we've got to do a better job as Microsoft partners of working together, because if we're going to compete against non-Microsoft products, a lot of them don't use ISVs as much as we do. So we've got to make it, the term better together. We've got to get better at it.
I know. I feel like something, I'll just stay with Business Central here, even though it's cloud subscription and and that comes at a cost. If you could have 10 ISVs, 200 users, and you're still going to pay a fraction that you would with some of these big boxes. It's just going to be an interesting space to see how this all plays out. Because I feel like the days of $1 million implementations are going to become increasingly rare. And then these partners that rely on time and material, customizations, those that continue to promote customizations, they better look in that bathroom mirror, because the ability to self-implement and how the AI embedding into these different solutions. Where do you think, if you look at, we'll just stay in the Microsoft space and the amount of partners that are out there, how do you see that playing out over the next 3 to 5 years as more automation and self-implementation capabilities are introduced?
I think we have to change our business models a bit here, actually quite a bit. We've got to kind of focus on strategy, right? How we got to figure out, you've got all this stuff that's on premise, you got hybrid, you got cloud, right? We got to help the client make the best decision and move across and do this. The day where, I built this app for you and you're going to spend $30,000 a year keeping this app current and working on this app, I think are gone, right? Gone. And, we're getting into low code, right? You go to a Power Platform conference, it's not just partners there, it's a lot of customers, thousands of
It's almost
customers.
getting bigger than the CRM camps, the Power Platform.
Oh, it
I
is.
mean, that tells you the wave that's coming.
It's absolutely bigger than the CRM camp, because
Ooh, all right. So you're more definitive on that. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
100%. Because, if we look at business applications partners, there may be 20,000 of us, the core ones. What do I say? GPBC, F&O, and CRM. Maybe 20,000 of us that are a fair size. You look over at office, hundreds of thousands of these people coming over. So they're all using these low-code apps. Not all, but most of them are starting to build on low-code apps. So here they come, right? They're coming. And is that a threat to our Dynamics ecosystem? Threat meaning, are they now going to compete against us in the world of Dynamics, which is a different question. But it's, by far. They throw a power platform conference, 5,000-6,000 people, bang. In the first year, 5,000 or 6,000 people in the first year of the conference.
Amazing.
So, all right, so give us a golden nugget. You mentioned the partners have to change their model, change their strategy. What's your recommendation? What do your tea leaves tell you?
I'm working with one called Coffee and Done right now, and they're probably the biggest. They've probably done the most of the customer insights, which used to be Dynamics marketing. They're changing the model where we're going to help you with your strategy. How do we take you from when someone clicks on your website to when they, sign using DocuSign, right? What that whole process in between, that whole journey. And then on the other side of that journey, now they're a customer. What's that new journey look like? We're going to see that model start to repeat itself in different lines of work. We're also seeing partners jump in. If we look at Anata, which they're out of Iceland, but they've really built a business around manufacturing, right? So if you're a manufacturer, we'll take all this Microsoft stuff and we'll help you embed it into your business. So we're going to see more and more partners kind of figure out an industry and get into that industry and really understand it.
Well, and I think you touched on something really important, and Craig really leads on this topic with our customers, but it's the entire Microsoft solution. It isn't just your CRM product. It isn't just your ERP product. It's how does it work with Outlook? How does it work with Teams? How do you integrate that with OneDrive and Azure and all of it?
Yeah. And Tom, you think about the client that we just pulled you in on, it's that true consultative guidance now, not the install, configure. What do you need your business to do? What's the relationship with the customer? The whole business process. We're becoming technology and business consultants again versus just technology. Thinking best practices, opening their minds to change management and actually helping them navigate change management, which is a mental psychology circle that you have to go through a lot nowadays, right? From low-level users to high-level users.
When you mention the multiple partners in a deal, which I think is actually appropriate if you've got the right relationships, but where do you draw that line? How much should a Dynamics partner know about the Office M365 products? And that's a big suite of products. When do you bring in somebody who specializes in that stuff, and what should you master on your own? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think you need to understand, your parameters, what you're good at, and then explain to the customer, if you want me to do that, I can help you with that, but we need to bring in experts. And I think we're going to see more and more contractors, that work for partners that come in and do their little piece of expertise, or here's somebody who does the Office Teams things for me, and those are more the managed service provider type security people. The one area, though, that I also wanted to point out, which is going to be really hot in the next few years, is data, right? Because we all know the condition of the data that's out there. We got way too much data, and too bad it's not in good shape. Well, for these AI tools to make sense that everybody wants to use, we need decent data, good data. So I think we're going to see companies that specialize in data and that have data practices really start to scoop up a lot of business.
Rick, nice meeting you. I love the comments on CRM, the whole data centralization and AI, initiatives. It's the partner model's got to change, right? My thoughts are just get ahead of it, get back into true consulting, and think about business and technology together now. And we really need to help our clients navigate the roadmap, and appreciate your input, Rick.
Rick, always good to see you. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and we'll look forward to talking again at the next conference.
And if you haven't checked out Partner Talks, be sure to click this link above. You'll find a wide variety of guests and interesting topics. Rick, thanks for everything you've done for this community. I can't wait to see what's coming next.
Okay, thank you, Tony, Tom, and Craig. Looking forward to talking to you guys in the future more about partners, AI, and where we've got to go with all this.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Tom, it's something with your browser, buddy. You might want to refresh.
We don't. Yeah, he's talking about my machine, huh?
Yeah. Karma,
cool.
Baby.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Rick, where did we meet?
I think over the conferences over the years is where
I think we were at Directions. We had breakfast together.
Gotcha. Oh, gotcha. Yep. Now I'm with you.
It's all fuzzy for me. I've been to so many of these shows, but I know I've met. I see somebody's face. Go, I've met you before.
How long have you been an MVP?
I'm in my 12th year.
So that's back when MVP actually mattered, guys. Just for the record.
Cut this.
If we didn't win, the MVP has become so diluted. It used to really mean people that knew stuff. Greg, good to see you.
Technical difficulties.
Sorry about that, guys. The camera would not come back on. So,
we got to hear the call with your bookie, and I want to tell you, I'm so sad that race didn't work out for you.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Appreciate that, Tom.
And then he was a black box, and all I heard was.
I know it was my doctor calling me. So sorry. I know you edit that out. I had to.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rick.
No, it's fine. Are we allowed to joke without insulting people?
Oh, absolutely.
Hell yeah.
So after the ERP partner's done trying to put the CRM in and it doesn't work right.